He was a quiet, kind man who married for love, not wealth. But when he hid his fortune to test their hearts, what he uncovered wasn't just greed. It was betrayal that cut deeper than money ever could. Daniel was a successful businessman, known for his intelligence and kindness, but life hadn't always been easy for him. He grew up poor and knew how people treated others based on their appearance. Now a millionaire, he wanted to find out who truly valued him, not his wealth. So when he married Anna, a humble and loving woman, he didn't tell her family about his riches. Instead, he dressed simply and told them he worked as a small-time employee. At first, things were okay, but after the wedding, everything changed. Anna's relatives, her uncles, cousins, even her younger brother started treating him badly. They mocked his clothes, insulted his job, and refused to invite him to family events. Some even made jokes in front of him, not knowing Anna secretly cried at night seeing her husband treated so badly. Daniel stayed silent, observing. He didn't want to hurt Anna, so he endured every insult with a quiet smile. He fixed broken things in their homes, helped with groceries, and offered rides to people who never said thank you. Anna begged her family to show respect, but they dismissed her, saying she married below her level. Daniel noticed the difference in how they treated richer relatives with gifts and flashy cars. One night, after a family dinner where Daniel was made to eat separately from the rest, Anna broke down. "You deserve better," she whispered. Daniel just held her hand and smiled. "Let them show who they are," he said. Deep inside, Daniel was waiting for the right moment, not to take revenge, but to reveal the truth. A moment when character would speak louder than wealth. As weeks passed, Daniel's patience was constantly tested. Anna's family grew more disrespectful. They would make sarcastic remarks about how Anna had ruined her future by marrying a nobody. During family gatherings, Daniel was asked to stay in the kitchen or run errands like a servant. Even children in the family were told not to listen to him because he's just a poor man. One day, Anna's cousin Rudy purposely spilled a drink on Daniel's shirt and laughed in front of everyone. "Sorry, sir. Oh wait, you probably can't afford another one anyway," he mocked. Anna's eyes filled with tears, but Daniel gently shook his head, signaling her to stay calm. He wanted to see how far their arrogance would go. Despite everything, Daniel still helped her relatives quietly. He paid for a hospital bill for Anna's aunt without mentioning his name. He helped fix her uncle's broken car and left before anyone could thank him. Anna knew what he was doing, testing them, but it broke her heart to see how unkind people could be to someone who never harmed them. One evening, Daniel overheard her cousins planning a business investment using Anna's father's retirement money. They laughed. "He's too old and dumb to understand paperwork." Daniel realized that greed had blinded them. They'd only respected people with money, not values. That night, Daniel sat with Anna under the stars and said softly, "Sometimes people don't need to be taught a lesson, they just need to be shown a mirror." Anna nodded. "But mirrors don't lie," she replied. Daniel looked into her eyes and smiled. "Exactly, and soon they'll see their own reflection when truth stands in front of them." A month later, Daniel received an urgent call. One of his longtime business managers had flown into the country and insisted on meeting him about an investment deal that couldn't wait. Daniel agreed, but told him to meet at a humble cafe, dressed casually to keep his secret intact. As they sat at a small corner table, the manager slid a folder across the table. "The new resort deal in Bali is ready. Also, your European property taxes are due next week," he said. Just as Daniel responded, "Handle it as usual." He noticed someone watching from a nearby table, Anna's cousin, Mara. Her eyes widened as she secretly took pictures with her phone. Daniel pretended not to notice, but deep down, he knew the truth was slowly unraveling. Back home, whispers began. Mara told her siblings what she saw, and suddenly everyone became curious. They started digging into Daniel's background, trying to confirm what they dismissed before. Anna's brother, who once insulted Daniel for being useless, now tried to strike friendly conversations. "So, Daniel, ever thought of doing business? I've got some big ideas," he hinted. Daniel smiled politely, but kept his silence. Meanwhile, Anna was torn between anger and amusement. "Now that they suspect you have money, they're crawling back." Daniel simply said, "Let's wait. The show isn't over." That week, Daniel invited the entire family to a dinner he claimed was hosted by a friend. When they arrived at the Grand Hotel ballroom, Stunned silence filled the room. Gold chandeliers sparkled above tables set like royalty. Waiters served drinks with white gloves. And at the center, Daniel stood no longer in worn-out clothes, but in an elegant black suit. Smiling warmly, the truth was no longer hidden. It was just beginning to shine. As Daniel stood in the center of the grand ballroom, Anna's relatives froze confused, embarrassed, and overwhelmed. Whispers echoed across the room. Is this really Daniel, the poor, quiet husband? Some rubbed their eyes in disbelief. Others stared at Anna, hoping for an explanation. But she was just as shocked by the scale of his transformation. Daniel welcomed everyone with warmth, not a hint of pride or revenge in his voice. Thank you for coming. Tonight, I wanted to honor the woman I love and all of you, her family, he said, raising a toast. The hall applauded weakly. Some clapped out of guilt, some out of fear, and a few still pretending nothing had changed. As the night went on, Anna's uncle, who once laughed at Daniel for being jobless, suddenly approached him. You should have told us who you were, he said nervously, forcing a smile. Another cousin handed Daniel his business card, pretending to be an old friend. Daniel, graceful but sharp, replied, but if I had told you, would your hearts have changed or just your behavior? Anna, watching it all, felt a strange ache in her chest, not because of the wealth, but because Daniel had never stopped being kind, even when they didn't deserve it. After dinner, Daniel stood beside her. I never wanted to hide from the world. I just wanted to see who truly saw me, and his eyes welled up. And I failed you, she whispered. He gently took her hand. You didn't fail me. You saw me for who I was before anyone else did. That's all I ever needed. Round them, the room buzzed with false smiles and shallow praise. But for Daniel and Anna, it no longer mattered. The masks had fallen, and in that truth, they found something priceless. Weeks passed after the grand celebration, but its impact lingered like a shadow over everyone. Daniel had returned to his peaceful, humble way of life, but this time, there was no need to pretend. People now knew the truth, and the same relatives who once looked down on him now called daily, hoping for favors, invitations, or business opportunities. But Daniel stayed the same calm, kind, and quietly distant from those whose respect was tied to his wealth. Anna changed too. She started cooking with him again, listening more, hugging tighter. She no longer needed fancy brunches or status updates. Her world had shifted. She had rediscovered the man she married. One morning, sitting by the garden where they used to dream, Anna looked at him and asked, do you still believe in people after all that? Daniel smiled gently. Not in everyone, but I believe that truth always comes out. And when it does, the right people stay. They decided to leave the city behind for a while, moving to a quiet town by the sea. There, they opened a small community library free for children, full of stories and open to everyone, rich or poor. Anna's relatives visited once, hoping to see a mansion. Instead, they found peace, laughter, and Daniel in slippers teaching a group of kids how to plant trees. It turned out Daniel's biggest wealth wasn't his money, it was his heart, and the wisdom to know where real value lies. People had tested him, judged him, even used him, but in the end, he didn't lose anything. In fact, he gained everything that truly mattered: respect, peace, and love that didn't care for riches. And that was more than any fortune could ever buy. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and share your thoughts. Subscribe now to Human Fables for more inspiring and emotional true life stories.